how much control do you actually have over your own choices? Seriously, think about it. How often do you feel, well, nudged? Or maybe swayed, influenced, maybe even manipulated, but you can't quite put your finger on how?
Mm. Yeah, those little pulls on your emotions, right? The
Yeah.
things that steer your decisions,
Yeah.
sometimes completely under the radar.
Exactly. Is it just persuasion or is it something darker? And what happens when a book contains ideas so potent, so disruptive that governments actually try to outlaw it?
That's a huge question. The whole concept of knowledge being too dangerous, leading to bans, it makes you ask, well, who gets to decide what we're allowed to know?
Right. And today we're doing a deep dive into exactly that kind of book. It's called Welcome to Manipulation.
Hmm.
The author is this enigmatic Siberian psychologist, Ivan Zorov, and it's banned in several countries.
Highly controversial stuff.
But here's what makes this deep dive totally unique. We're building it pretty much entirely around an exclusive interview we got with the person who risked absolutely everything to get this banned book out there. His name is Alex Harper. He used to be a librarian down in Texas.
Wow. So we're getting his firsthand account.
Yes, exactly. His story finding it, the defiance, the danger, it's incredible. That's going to be our guide today as we unpack this whole thing for you.
That's fascinating because his own story, his fight, it seems like it's directly tied into what the book itself is actually about. It's not just abstract ideas, it's the real-world consequences of, challenging how information gets controlled.
You nailed it. So get ready. We're going to unpack what makes this dangerous manual tick, look at its frankly shocking contents, and figure out how understanding these tactics might actually give you a shield, in a world that's always trying to pull your strings.
Expect some surprises, maybe some uncomfortable moments.
Definitely some aha moments, too, I think. Okay, let's jump in. All right, so let's start with Alex Harper, former librarian, small Texas town. Picture this. It's October 2024. He's doing a clear out in the library storage, dusty boxes, old manuals. Pretty standard stuff.
The kind of job where you expect maybe finding an old bookmark, not...
Not this, no. He finds this book, plain gray cover, no title, just a weird stain on it, he said, like old coffee. And inside, scratched in, just one name, Zorov.
Zorov, and Alex knew that name.
Instantly. He told us he'd heard whispers online, rumors about this book, Welcome to Manipulation. He took it home, read the entire thing in one night, couldn't stop.
And his reaction.
He said it scared the hell out of me, just straight up fear.
And, stepping back, this wasn't just some random find. Zorov, some people call him the Siberian bloody doctor, kind of darkly, because of this cold approach. He wrote this thing back in 2005. Alex sees it as, well, Zorov himself apparently called it a weapon.
A weapon? How so?
It breaks down, very clinically, how to use human emotions. Happiness, fear, guilt, love. Not as feelings, but as tools, levers for manipulation. And that's why it's banned, reportedly, in Russia, Germany, the UK. It's not just seen as bad ideas, it's seen as actively dangerous to, social stability.
Wow. Okay, that context is huge. Which makes you ask the big question. Why on earth would Alex risk everything prison time, his whole life, to publish something like that?
Yeah, what was his reasoning?
When we asked him, he was really clear. He said, it's truth nobody wants out. He felt he had to expose how power works. He wanted to get it, and this is his phrase, to the kids, the outsiders, the ones who need to see the strings being pulled.
That's a powerful motivation. And it really connects to broader issues of censorship, doesn't it? Alex mentioned this himself, the ALA, the American Library Association. They reported something like, over 1,200 book challenges back in 2022.
Yeah, and he said by 2024, especially in Texas, it had gotten way worse. New laws meaning you could actually go to jail for distributing books deemed obscene.
Right. But Alex was careful to point out, Welcome to Manipulation isn't obscene like, say, sexually explicit. He told you that specifically.
He did. He clarified. He believes its danger isn't about that kind of content. It's dangerous because it pulls back the curtain on power dynamics, on influence. That's the threat, he thinks, to people who benefit from keeping those methods hidden.
So it's a different kind of dangerous.
Exactly. Which leads us right into the book itself. What's actually in this thing that makes it so feared? Alex called it a masterclass in psychological control.
Okay, so how does it work? What did he say about the structure?
He laid it out for us, 14 chapters. Each one takes a specific human emotion and just dissects it, shows how to weaponize it for control. And it's not abstract, he said. Zorov gives, actual instructions.
Really practical, that.
Disturbingly so.
Can you give an example? What did Alex mention?
Well, okay, take love. Zorov apparently talks about using it not just for connection, but to, quote, leash people. like creating this intense emotional high, then pulling back, making the person desperate for approval
Wow. Okay. What else?
or shame. Using it to herd them, not by yelling, but by subtly pointing out flaws in front of others so they conform. Fear is for instant compliance, obviously, and empathy. Zorov apparently explains how to fake empathy to win trust before you exploit someone.
Oof. That's methodical. It's chilling, really.
It really is, and it covers the whole spectrum: happiness, sadness, pride, envy, compassion. But Alex said the really intense part is chapter 14. Zorov calls it the symphony.
The symphony, what does that mean?
It's about layering emotions, not just using one, but combining them, like hitting someone with fear, then guilt, then maybe a bit of pride, mixing it all up. The goal, according to the book, is total domination, turning someone into a, quote, puppet without knowing it.
Good grief. That sounds terrifyingly sophisticated.
And Alex told us it's not just theory. He saw it happen. He shared this story about an old boss he had. This boss would use fake tears, guilt trips, little bits of praise, all mixed together. Alex now realizes, looking back, his boss was using the symphony to get him to work tons of unpaid overtime. He saw the pattern after reading Zorov.
And that's the scary part, isn't it? Alex pointed out that once you know what Zorov describes, you start seeing these techniques everywhere. They're not confined to some evil genius's lair.
Where do you see them?
Well, think about it. Those TikTok gurus building intense parasocial bonds, using manufactured empathy to sell $1,000 courses, or ads that subtly stoke your fear of missing out or fear of illness to sell you something. It's pervasive.
Right, it's baked into so much.
Absolutely. There's a psychologist, Dr. Jane Smith, who we looked into. She said pretty bluntly, "This book is a threat to society. It hands people a roadmap to exploit others." And that hits the nail on the head, that tension. It is dangerous if misused, but understanding it could be protective.
Okay, so Alex finds this book, he sees its power, feels this like compulsion to share it. But acting on that?
Yeah.
It cost him big time. It led straight to his arrest. Tell us what Alex said happened.
Yeah, his account is intense. It's November 2024. He's driving, heading towards New Mexico, manuscript in the car. He's trying to find a printer, someone brave enough. Then boom, checkpoint, Texas Rangers.
They were waiting for him.
Someone tipped them off. That was clear. Maybe someone who read his blog and got scared or disagreed. Who knows? They took everything, the book, his laptop, charged him with distributing obscene material.
Obscene material, even though he argued it wasn't.
That was the charge. He spent days in jail looking at possibly 5 years in prison.
Wow. 5 years for trying to share a book. What happened next? Did people react?
Oh, yeah. Alex said it blew up. A friend kept his blog going, telling the story. There were protests down in Austin. Free speech groups got involved, rallied support. He eventually got out on bail.
Although he's free now.
Well, free is relative. He described himself as a ghost, always moving, trying to stay off the radar, avoid more legal trouble. His case really puts a spotlight on that whole book ban surge, especially in places like Texas.
You mentioned those vague laws earlier.
Exactly. Texas's obscenity laws are notoriously broad. They carry heavy penalties. And it's not just laws. Librarians themselves have faced increasing harassment, threats even, for pushing back against bans. Alex's situation is like a case study in what happens when these forces collide.
So he's out on bail, basically a fugitive in his own state. How did he possibly manage to get the book published then?
That's where the story gets even more interesting. After making bail, he told us he connected with what he called a shadow network.
A shadow network. Sounds like something out of a spy novel.
Kinda, yeah. Librarians, activists, even tech-savvy kids apparently, passing encrypted files around on USB drives, just trying to keep the text alive and circulating. Eventually, this network found a tiny press in New Mexico. The owner, Alex said, was basically willing to risk jail.
Someone willing to take that risk.
Right. And by June 2025, they did it. They printed 500 copies, no ISBN number, plain covers, totally underground. Alex says they're out there now. Hidden away in sympathetic bookstores, on encrypted hard drives, maybe even tucked away on library shelves where no one expects them.
Wow. And the press.
Here's the kicker. Alex told us federal agents raided that specific press just last week. Shut it down.
Unbelievable. So the book exists, but its creators are under constant threat.
Pretty much. The whole publication story is as much about defiance as the book's content is about influence.
Okay, so after all that, the arrest, living like a ghost, the raid on the press, the book is out there, circulating in secret. Which brings us back to Alex. We had to ask him, was it worth it? All that sacrifice.
What did he say? I mean, that's a heavy question.
His answer, immediate. Yeah, he said, every kid who reads it, every person who sees the truth, it's worth it. He doesn't pull punches about Zorov. He called him a monster.
Yeah.
But he sees the book itself as a mirror.
A mirror.
Yeah, a mirror showing us, as he put it, we're all being played. He even gave an example. A teenager in Oklahoma contacted him. She said the book finally showed her how her ex-boyfriend had manipulated her systematically. She saw the patterns Zorov described.
Wow. So it can be empowering then, seeing the mechanics.
That's exactly the point, and this is where it loops back to you, listening right now. Yes, welcome to manipulation is dangerous if someone uses it with bad intentions. It's a tool, right? Tools can build or destroy.
It's true.
But Alex and others argue it's primarily a tool for defense. Imagine being able to finally spot the manipulation, the advertiser playing on your insecurities, the politician using guilt trips, the influencer faking that perfect empathetic life just to get likes or sell you something.
Once you understand the techniques Zorov outlines, those subtle little moves, they become obvious. You can see the strings.
It lets you shield yourself, absolutely. But Alex also suggested something deeper. Understanding how emotions are really used, how influence actually works. It might help you build more honest relationships, maybe even negotiate better at work because you understand the underlying dynamics.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But it comes with a warning, right? Alex mentioned that too.
He did. He stressed this is a heavy book.
Yeah.
It forces you to look at some really uncomfortable truths about people, about yourself maybe. He said it takes grit to get through it and real wisdom to use the knowledge responsibly. It's definitely not light reading.
Not beach reading, no. But the insights sound profound, if unsettling.
Absolutely. So that's our deep dive into Welcome to Manipulation. Not just looking at it as some forbidden text, but seeing it as this chilling yet maybe vital playbook for understanding influence. And we got this unique perspective through Alex Harper's story, the librarian who risked it all.
Yeah, his journey really grounds it. It shows Zorov's ideas aren't just abstract. They have real weight, real consequences. And yeah, however dark Zorov's work is, it does offer this kind of stark lens on human nature, on power, especially now in our world.
It really does. And that final thought Alex shared about the book, it really stuck with me. He said, Zorov's book cuts deeper. It shows how power manipulates. That's why they want it gone.
That makes you think.
It does. So if this dangerous manual, as they call it, can help us see the strings, maybe recognize the emotional games being played, what hidden influences, what subtle manipulations might you start noticing now in your own life or just out there in the world, something to chew on.